Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode on the Growth Leadership Cafe. My name is Adesua, and on this channel, I talk about all things personal and organizational leadership. So if this is your first time coming across my YouTube channel, you're very welcome. It means that you're in search for tips and tricks on how to build your capacity as a leader. And for my avid subscribers, thank you. Today, I'm talking about something that in many respects is debatable, but we're going to have the conversation anyways, and we're both going to give our 2 cents on the matter. And that is, are you likable as a leader? What does that mean? Is it important? What are the benefits for your business environment or your team? What are some strategies you can incorporate as a leader and use? Hopefully will produce the same results for you. And talking about some of the biggest mistakes that new leaders make, or even people who've been in leadership make, in their effort to build to seem likable to their team. And in helping me with this conversation today is my very good friend, Bolanle Adigun, who I consider an intellectual, but he is an experienced project manager, so he's worked with a lot of teams. But I'll let you introduce yourself, Bolanle. I know, thank you for being here. I know it's been like a logistics nightmare just trying to merge our schedules, time difference, all of that fun stuff. But thank you for making time to be here. I really appreciate it. But who are you and what are you?
Okay. So first thing first, thank you for having me. I mean, I enjoy doing stuff like this and I enjoy sharing knowledge. So my name is Bolanle Adigun, as you know. I'm into real estate and construction, and both for housing sector and infrastructure as well. So basically, I'm a project manager and a development manager. So I just, I'm responsible for conceptualizing projects and then carrying all these projects from the point of conceptualization up onto delivery and management and stuff like that. So most times I work with senior manager. I'm like the bridge between senior management and every other person in the business. So so it gives me a very wide scope, in managing different kind of teams, because you get to manage things that are both, skilled, unskilled, management. It gives me very broad understanding of how the business works and everything. So yeah, I mean, I've been in real estate and construction for about 8 years now. I have a master's in project management. So yeah, that's just what it is about me, basically.
Thank you. You're very well suited for having this conversation. So let's just
I'm proud, by the way.
So the first question is the concept of being likable as a leader. What does it look like within a business environment, and is it important? If so, why or why not?
Okay, so your question is it important to be likable, in a likable
well, what
leader?
does that look like? So if you're saying you want to be a likable leader, what does that mean? So for someone who doesn't even understand that concept, what does that mean?
Okay, so basically, in my own field or in my own industry, sometimes it doesn't really matter if I mean, there are different opinions about this. So there's no right or wrong way. Some people believe in being likable, while some believe in commanding respect by being very shrewd. I mean, from my own perspective, yeah, being likable is very important because, and it's a very important skill to have as a leader. So basically, and it requires a lot of empathy as well. So it's like it's a psychological thing. It's not something you go to school to learn. It has to do with your consciousness and the kind of decisions you make on a daily basis. How much you care about the guy working under you. How far are you willing to go to make sure he has a good life while working under you? So, being likable is just, being able to command respect in a way that isn't, that's humane, if I must say, and being able to um, just get people that sometimes might be reluctant to do certain things, but because of the fact that you're likable, they will do it and they will do it happily.
I agree 100%. I think being likable is very important. Like you said, people would naturally want to do things or be more inclined to help you out, or even do not even necessarily help you out, but do their job well.
Their
You
job
know,
well.
go above and beyond within their job to be more innovative in their space, because they feel like, yeah, like this person needs this, I want to make sure that he has what he needs, to do whatever he needs to get done.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, being likable is just your general disposition as a leader. Like you said,
Mhm.
there's that
Mhm.
empathy. So like how do you relate with your team members? Are you the shrewd leader who's just like, hey guys, we need to do this, you go do that, and not
Yeah.
connecting with people at a personal level? Because there's a saying that I ascribe to so much that they say people would connect to the leader before they connect to the vision. So if you as a person
Yeah.
are a tad
Let me
hostile or
do
just
this.
inapproachable or unapproachable, uh,
Mhm.
people would not feel safe enough to share things with you, or even feel like they need to do more than is even required.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, ultimately, I feel like being likable helps your business environment. It helps you, the relationship, and just how your team functions as a unit in getting things done. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, not to dwell too much on that.
Yeah. That, I mean, you're 100% correct. Like, um, it goes a long way, but a lot of people just, because they can't see the immediate impact to their bottom line. Some people feel like, being likable doesn't add a dime to your bottom line. But at the end of the day, when you accumulate things like, people are willing to negotiate, they're willing to be more receptive when they're negotiating with you because they like you. They're willing to expand their scope without charging you extra because they like you. So at the end of the day, you get to I mean, for example, what we do, in real estate, there are certain things that are, that have to do with precision. And, if your people are not happy, they would actually, sometimes they go as far as sabotaging what you're doing.
Yeah,
Or just generally, they wouldn't just put in as much effort as they're supposed to put. It will be like, you know, you pay me, you pay me a certain amount for 3 hours, I'm giving you 3 hours on the dot. Now, the difference between someone that they hate and someone that they like is that they can put additional 30 minutes just to make sure that that job is completed. So yeah, like I said, so people think it's not important, but from my own perspective, I think it's very, very important. Yeah. And
absolutely.
yeah, because it creates there's something I always say, there's something called um, belongingness. So when you treat these people right, when you, just like you said, you listen to them, you take note of what is happening, you know what, you know, the name of his child, or the name of his wife, those kind of little things, it creates that um it makes your workers feel like they're part of the project and they're not
Yeah,
just there to complete a task.
yeah,
you know Even if they're wrong sometimes in their opinions, there's a way you can manage that. At least listen to the opinion at least. And and if the opinion is actually, if it actually does make sense, you can actually take parts of it just to see that you know a decision was made by consulting someone that was working under and they get very happy about that. So yeah.
yeah. I think like just if, say for example, you're at a meeting and you have a new project you're trying to launch, and you're trying to get ideas of, hey guys, we have this new project, what are your thoughts, yada yada yada. And if you're that person they don't like, you're going to get radio silence. People are not really inclined to really meet your needs or answer your questions unless maybe you target them and say, hey, you Bolanle, what are your thoughts, right? Everyone's just not really wanting to volunteer themselves to do anything.
Mhm.
So if you're not that person who's just, has a friendly disposition, you're genuinely interested in getting to know them the same way, you want them to get to know you. I think it's also that openness of being vulnerable and being honest, but if there's that, behavior of you trying to force your power on people, you're going to get pushback, first of all, you're
Yeah, yeah.
why are you telling me what to do, or
You also you would also lose your best team members when you do things like
oh
that.
yeah, absolutely.
And trust me, when you have a fully functioning team, that every person is just like soccer. Everybody in every position has to do what he has to do,
Mm-hmm.
and rely on what that person does. If not, it will affect the entire team,
Oh yeah.
you know. So it's just very important that these guys are guys that are capable of doing things, and and to be honest with you, that's why some of the things that I do to ensure likability is, first of all, ensuring that the person has the capacity to undertake that project. In my in my previous work environment, I I never accept an assistant or someone working under me without me interviewing that person. So I don't just leave it for the human resource manager to just bring somebody up on a Monday morning and say, "Oh, Bolanle, this guy is working with you right now." I'm actually
Mhm.
usually part of the recruitment
As it
procedures.
should be, that person is working in your team, you should get a say. Yes.
Exactly, as it should be. And for example, I have like a template whereby if I want to fill a particular role, I give them like a task, So, and when they complete the task, and I mean, you don't even have to do the task in the office, on your interview day. You can actually take it home and do it. And what I usually look out for are his ability, or his or her ability um, to solve problems, his approach, how far did he go to getting information and stuff like that. Those are the kind of things I'm looking for. Because when you have someone that can do those kind of things, it doesn't really matter what kind of tasks you give to them. They would always be able to accomplish it because they already know the process that is involved in completing every project. That's why I said it's always good for a leader to be actively involved in identifying the right set of people to execute specific jobs.
So, from your own perspective, what would you say, or your own lived experience, what would you say are some of the strategies that you've used to help enhance your own relationship and your likability on a general level with the people you've worked with as a leader?
Okay. First thing first, you have to understand that there's a very, very thin line between likability and disrespect.
What does that mean?
Now, so basically, yeah, um, if someone you can be likable and they would actually take advantage of that.
Mhm.
A lot of people do that, and that's where the disrespect comes in. You need to also be able to command respect.
Let's just put it at this from like a new leader's perspective. They've entered a new team, or they've been put into a new team essentially. What are some strategies that person can take on and run with and say, you know what, if I do X, Y, and Z, this is something that would help me? What would be the starting points, and what are just some general things, strategies to
Yeah.
in your tool
So
belt?
if you remember when we started this conversation, I told you that you can't really learn likability. However, there are specific things, like for example, humility.
Mhm.
Like you um I mean, let me give you some. I'll just explain this based on examples and things that I've actually experienced in the past. So I worked on a project that before I came into the project as a team lead, my workers were being paid once in a month. Now when I joined the team, the first thing I did was to have a meeting with them and get their feedback as to the challenges that they are facing at the moment. Now, just that meeting that I had with them probably increased my likability by 20 or 30%. Now they don't know me, but just the fact that I'm willing to listen to their problems, it made them feel like, oh, I think we're going to like this guy. That's where it starts.
Taking it, the fact that you even made it a point of duty to have that meeting to ask them what are their challenges, like that's because not many spaces are created for that, where it's just an expectation that you come and do your job and go home.
You have to have a very open door policy. You have to have a very, very open door. People must be able to come and meet you and talk to you about anything, even down to their personal lives, So, for example, as I was saying, my workers were being paid once in a month. And to be very realistic, these guys are guys that they actually need their money. They can't wait 30 days to get their money. And that's where empathy comes through. And that's why I tell you, you can't learn it in school. It's just about your personality. Now, I knew that I can't have someone that I'm paying, a certain amount, wait for 30 days before he gets his next pay. When he has a wife, he has a child, he has to pay bills. Not a lot of people think about those things, but I'm actually thinking about the welfare. You could see that I'm thinking about the welfare. And then, and then when I talk to them about what the challenges that they are facing, and I'm interested in what are their thoughts as to how we can make it better, So sometimes, you make them understand that, look, I understand your problems, and I know where you guys are at the moment. So what can I do to make it better?
Exactly.
Sometimes they can come and tell you, oh, if you pay us every day, it will be good. But I can't pay you every day. Now I would find a common ground that leaves us with a win-win situation. So, for example, prompt payments. If you have an agreement with someone and they do the job, pay them immediately. Don't tell them to go home and then you send the money to them. Even before they finish that job, the money should be available for them to take home. So, first of all, you build that kind of reputation as somebody that doesn't owe, or someone that doesn't delay payments. Already they like you. So, so basically, in a nutshell, what this means is, in as much as they are my staff, or rather, in as much as, I'm their leader, I also have their personal interest.
Right.
I have that in mind as well. So they love things like that. I had a book with every staff's name, his birthday, the name of his children, and the name of his wife. And I have a foreman that would tell me, this is this person, this is this person. So, sometimes when I come to the set and I'm like, oh, Jide, oh, happy birthday, or how are your kids? How is Adesua, for example? I'm like, how's your child? And you notice that they will literally start telling you about the child, from how is your child. They start things like, oh, he's just getting into university, he just passed his exam. Immediately they just start to like you. They just, I mean, it's a nice feeling on both. And that's the reason why, these guys, no matter where they are working, if I have a project and call them, they would always show up.
That's reliability. They can depend on you, and you can depend on them to show up as well.
Exactly. So that helps me out a whole lot, because they know that this leader is a very reliable leader. Those are the kind of strategies that I use. It's mainly how you talk to them, how much you care about them, and
just trying to piggyback on your point. Two things that you mentioned is really being interested in knowing what the challenges that you're experiencing, but also including them in the solution of how to fix it, right? most of the time, it's not the absence of people knowing what the solution to their problems are. They know what it is. They don't need you to tell them. It's giving them the space for them to tell you that, and not just you saying, okay, you've created this meeting, you've asked them what their problems are, but then that
Yeah.
piece of making sure that, you pay them on time, like you said, you're not constantly a person that's a debtor or always, paying their workers late. In that regard, I think for me, the starting point is getting to know the people that you work with, but allowing them get to know you as well.
Exactly.
People can relate to things about you, understanding your vision, understanding what your values are. If you have the same values or similar values, you already have that connection with that person that, you guys have mutual interests or mutual values, or they see something in you that maybe it's a value that you stand for and they admire and they aspire to be.
You also have to be very careful when you're doing all these things as well,
Oh
because
yeah, boundaries.
you have to still set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Because very easily it can turn to it can become, it can turn to disrespect, and sometimes you just have to use the iron fist. For example, maybe someone tried to take advantage of certain things and you fire him on the spot. Yes, you've lost one person, but you've actually put it in the mind of the rest that in as much as this guy is likable, don't disrespect him, try to hit him, so you need to be able to find a proper balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not just about being a nice guy. It's about,
You don't want to be a pushover for sure. Like you need to set boundaries with, like, being likable is not just people pleasing per se. It's not that. It's having standards. Let people know you for certain things, but
yeah,
flexible, adaptable. Friendly, approachable. Those are the
yeah,
things that will draw them close to you. Say, for example, lunch break, as opposed to being in your office and being so guarded and be like, oh, I don't negotiate or I don't associate with the team. You can sit
yeah.
in the lunchroom and have a conversation with
I've done that before too. I've done that before.
get to know them,
I've
Yeah.
had I've had interns in my teams before. I've had interns as well. Now, interns are very, very difficult. If they're not 100% sharp, they're very, very difficult to deal with, because 90% of the time you give them a task and they can't even complete it. But there's a way that you just try and take it upon yourself that you want to teach these guys something, and
Yeah.
they would actually appreciate, so there's just different strategies. You sharing your knowledge as well is another strategy. For example, maybe there's a particular procedure for doing something, and there's people can easily see when you're willing to teach them, when you're a willing teacher, and they actually appreciate that, because when they learn that thing, they can actually apply it on other projects. So it actually impacts their life on a long-term basis.
Speaking about that, teaching people things, even if you feel like someone on your team is deficient in a specific skill, like, as opposed to just, shaming them or making them feel inadequate because they can't do something, it's, as an opportunity to build their capacity in that regard, right? For me, if I'm ever asking my team to do anything, it's I'm asking you, is this something that you've done before? Some people don't feel safe enough to say that because they don't want to appear inadequate, right? But I would tell you, hey, please help me do this. In the past, this is how I've done it. This is what I did. But that is me. That's my approach. You can use a different approach and still achieve the same outcome, right? But be a starting point, just in case you're not sure where to start. But at least I've told you this is I've done it before. This is how I did it. This was the results I was able to accomplish. But you can put your own your own factor into it, and still even maybe something better than what I did, right? But I would always give you a starting point to say, hey, and I wouldn't even say it in a way that, just in case you don't know, it's like, hey, please help me do this. This is how I've done it in the past.
That's your delivery then. That's your delivery.
So that way, even if they're not sure, first of all, it opens up the conversation of, oh, just in case they don't know, they can then ask. It's an opportunity for them to say, okay, where did you go? And they're more willing to get it done because you've kind of given them a roadmap on where to start. wherever they get to or however they accomplish it is them now inputting their own individuality and their own intellectual
Yeah,
into
yeah,
that specific task. But at least I'm not just going to dump something on you and expect you to perform magic.
yeah.
I will give you a starting point, or even if I don't have any experience doing that, I would ask you maybe where to look to,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you search here or research
Of
this.
knowledge, that's
Yeah.
transfer. So basically,
Yeah.
for me to, in as much as I manage these guys, I try to, and that's why now this has to do with you paying attention to details.
Oh, yeah.
Now, everybody in your team has their strengths and weaknesses. Um, there might be certain people that maybe out of those issue filling up a spot or something, and then you end up getting someone who cannot particularly do a particular job, but he's very good at doing something else. So for example, I run a business, and I have a total of 2 people on my team, on that particular team. Now, I was able to perform really well because I fully understand the strengths and weaknesses of both players, of both team members. Now I know one of them, she's very good at marketing stuffs. She has the clientele. She has a wealth of individuals that are in Nigeria and abroad.
A network.
But
Yeah.
she has a very, very strong network. But she's not used to she's not used to promoting things online. She's not used to um she's not used to um what was the word I was going to use? She's not really good at using the computer as well.
Techie. Yeah.
She's not tech savvy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, but at the same time, I know someone else who's extremely good at doing,
Merge
promoting
them
stuff online.
together.
Exactly. So basically, and again, and like I said, you always need to look at their strengths. So for example, the person that is very good at marketing and has a strong network, she also has a very I noticed she has a temper, you know. So what did I do about that? I use that for marketing, yeah, but I don't let her
Like
negotiate,
customer
or
service.
I don't allow her to do customer service exactly. So I handle. So basically, she does the identification, and then she sends it to me because I understand customer service very, very well. It's not like she doesn't understand customer service. It's just that she has a very short fuse. So basically, and that way, I've been able to achieve about 80% like we're of about 40% above our expected our
Margin.
expected performance and revenue and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. And it's mainly because she's extremely good at marketing. And my own job is just to convert those people that she has identified, to convert them to revenue.
Paying clients.
She's what I'm very, very good at. you know.
Yeah.
So so basically you need to be able to know all these things about people, test them in certain areas, you know, try and understand what their strength is and use that strength. So obviously you have to wait, of course, is the strength better than is the strength more important, that you can overlook every other thing and just use that particular strength. Because I can guarantee you one thing, yeah. If I did not employ that girl, I probably wouldn't achieve up to 40% of what I'm doing. I probably would achieve maybe 35% occupancy rate as against the 80% occupancy rate that I'm experiencing right now.
So she makes a world of difference to your business. Yeah.
And to my business, she has been responsible for bringing in at least 80% or 70% of my customers. Only her. And this is someone that doesn't have good customer service experience, that has a very short fuse, but just because of I use her as for my market, for my lead identification and stuff like that, I'm able to capitalize on that and convert it to paying customers. So you need to also be able to use their strengths. When you know what their strength is, then you wouldn't have too much expectations, or
Yeah.
you wouldn't have
Yeah.
unrealistic
It
expectations.
helps you manage your expectations. So everything kind of centers back to getting to know the people that you work with. Be interested in them, interested in, you're going to find out what their skills are, what their strengths are. Even there are some things that may not have not even ended up on their resume, but by just mere conversation of some even informal conversations, you're going to find out so much more about them, and things might even end up being very beneficial to your business and what it is that you're working on, right? So small talk is not cheap. Like it's very helpful, yes, meetings are good, but in really understanding each individual, it's making the time out to get to know that person. The other point I would kind of emphasize on with some strategies that you can incorporate is, like you said, those little acts of kindness. So those thoughtful things that you would do, like, congratulating them on maybe when they get married, or asking about, oh, how is your wife doing? Or, how is your kid doing? Those little things. Or maybe you were coming to the office and you saw, maybe that Bolanle likes coffee, for example. And said, like, hey, I was getting coffee. I got you one too. And some of those little, to you, it might seem like such a little thing, but to them it's like, oh my God, this person actually thought about me and decided to give me this, even though I'm required to do that. I'm not saying go buy coffee for everyone on your team, but
Of course.
in getting to know them, you can also know, oh, maybe this person is really like a noodle person. Something that a manager of mine did one time is, like, she knows, like, I'm that person who, I don't really take lunch to work. I hate spending time in the kitchen. So, like, I eat maybe when I get home or something, but I'm not that person that really just packs lunch and takes to the office. She was sitting at my desk. She's like, oh, you're not going for lunch break? I was like, nah, I'll just drink coffee and, keep working. And she's like, okay. And then one day she came back and she got me like peanut butter, like one of all those pastry things. And that I like that. But I'm like, she didn't have to do it, but just because she knows that I like peanut butter or something, she knows that I rarely bring lunch to work. She's like, let me get this with this. And that has stuck with me for a very long time. And that has really endeared her to me because, like, there is no rules to this. Like, she didn't have to do any of that. But the fact that she thought about that, and it doesn't have to keep doing things every day. You want to keep impressed. Like, no, that's not it. It's just those little things here and there. Or maybe late to work and you'd be like, instead of just hammering it down and saying, you're not supposed to be late to work, this is the rules, and trying to tell them what the procedure is. Like, they already know what that is. They already know what the procedure is. Are you able to forgive that, time that you're late to work, and like that makes you human. Like, things happen, unanticipated things will happen that maybe just happen to impact the ability to get to work on time. So, like, forgive that. And because the goal with being a leader is trying to influence change, right? So, like, influence people's behaviors when you're leading them somewhere. So, like, if you're not going to be able to impact their personal lives or just making their whole work experience easy, like, they're not going to want to do anything for you. Really trying to, make life easy for them makes a world of difference for you, for your business, and you will see more outcomes, increased productivity and outcomes. And it also reduces staff turnover because people will stay with you because of how much you pay them, but because they just really like working with you. You make working with them so easy. So instead of them hopping from one organization to the next, they will most likely stay with you longer, and you're not going to be spending more time on recruitment and job listings and all that staff time that is put into actually recruitment and onboarding of new staff, right? So you see less staff turnover. Okay, our last point, or the last question we want to answer is, in your perspective, what are the biggest mistakes you see leaders, especially new leaders, make in their effort to appear more likable or be liked by their team?
One thing I can remember is not confronting certain issues at a particular time. So, for example, people are constantly going to test your boundaries. they're going to test it. For example, maybe because you're likable, they feel they don't have to come to work by 8 o'clock anymore because they feel he's a cool guy, he's a likable guy, he would understand, you know. So you need to be able to set boundaries, and you need to be able to make example out of people. So, for example, to be very honest with you, also, um, I mean, I fired someone some years back, and the entire team, they were okay with me firing the person. Like they didn't even object to it, and they totally understood, you
Why
know,
you did that? Yeah.
because in every team there'll be reasonable people, and then there'll be people that are unreasonable, you know. You can tell that it was a general, there was a general agreement that, look, this guy was becoming, he was actually taking a piece, and he had to go. Now, when you do things like that, it helps you create that boundary.
It sets
So,
the tone. Like, yeah.
but if you
Mhm.
don't make those kind of, and that's why I call them difficult decisions, because when you're setting that boundary, you might have to do something that
Be
deep down,
unpopular.
that
Yeah.
might make you unpopular,
Mhm.
but you have to do it. You have to confront the issue. You just can't ignore it. The moment they do one thing and you ignore it, they would keep doing that thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
And
it's like
especially when that person does this in the presence of everybody else. Other
exactly.
oh, this person did this and got away with it. I can too.
I can
Right?
do it as well. Exactly. You know, so basically, you need to be able to confront issues. You need to be able to be very vocal. And sometimes you need to be stern as well, and you make a decision and you do not look back. So yeah, it might cause a little bit of
Grift. Yeah.
yeah, between everybody. However, it's for the best interest of the project. And everybody will just understand that, look, in as much as we all like each other and everything, we still have boundaries. We still have to get the job done.
Exactly.
If you're not getting the job done, you're out of this place. So, and I mean, I will try my best to always give you assistance, but I can't be losing time because I'm always assisting
Yeah,
you.
you need to be fair and like know when it's
Exactly.
time to bring it down. Yeah.
So that's one major problem when you don't confront issues. These issues would, at some point, they will go out of hand,
We
and
escalate.
and
Yeah.
it will be explosive.
For me, the biggest thing for me is if those who are trying to be liked in quotes, there's a very thin line between becoming a people pleaser and you being likable in quotes.
Mm-hmm.
By people pleaser, I mean you're agreeing to things. You're saying yes, oh let's do this. This person recommends this. Oh, let's do that because you want that person to like you. You want to gain that person's favor or whatever it is. You start to say yes to things, even though
Become a yes
the idea or request is detrimental to what it is that you're trying to
man.
accomplish.
Yeah,
But because you
yeah,
don't want to sound or appear like you're shutting that person down, you're like, okay, yes, that's that
yeah.
has a huge damaging impact, right?
You
Or
can't have
you're
that.
also glossing over people's ideas. So, like you said, you need to be able to confront things, right? If you know that someone's doing something wrong, and because you want that person to like you, you either avoid having that conversation at all, or oh, it's
Yeah.
fine, and kind of just let it slide because you want the person to like you. That's
Mhm.
a service to you, to that person, and to your business environment because
Yeah,
that's a huge
yeah,
negative ripple effect because it
yeah.
will impact productivity, it will impact your outcomes. You would have to maybe do something twice or three times, something that could have taken you a shorter time because you're trying to make everybody happy.
Happy, yeah,
There, you
yeah.
cannot
You
make everybody happy.
make everybody happy. You
Yeah,
can't. They'll
but are you being fair? Have you set standards and boundaries and they understand that, okay, Adesoa would, she might be more open to this, but maybe not this.
Yeah,
You want to
yeah.
be open to
You
people's ideas and not shut people down. But when it comes to you then giving certain people preferential treatment because you want to be liked by those specific individuals, then the people who actually like you would probably stop doing that because they're seeing what's going on. you know, somebody that I hold in high regard to say it's monkey see, monkey do, right?
Yeah.
Things slide. Other people are watching. They're seeing what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And so even if someone really, you have really gained that person's trust and they like working with you, you're going to lose those good folks, you know, because of you trying to please other people. Right? So
Yeah.
try to be as fair as possible. Obviously, flexible. You know, don't be rigid and be like, oh, this is the rule and you follow the
Yeah.
rule. There are some times that you need to have exceptions to the rule and just let it happen.
Yeah. There are three things. There are three things that I always try to emulate when I'm leading a team. Just like you said, I try to always be fair. I try to be reasonable, and I try to be realistic. But when you have those three things working hand in hand, you know, I feel like you don't have to work on any particular individual. You would generally be liked by the group, you know, because when you're fair, it makes a lot of sense. When you're realistic, you know when someone has to get, you know when you have to fire somebody, you know when someone is not performing effectively, you know, you just need to you need to know when that person has to go. And then you also have to be reasonable. You know, there should be a minimum standard that you expect everybody, you know. So so once you have those three things going on, I feel like you should, it works for everybody. You know, it works for everybody, you know. And these three things are, you know, they are extremely broad. You know, they're extremely broad. But in a nutshell, those are the three things that I see that are very, very important for every leader. You know, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. So essentially, thank you so much, Bolanle. This kind of brings us to the end of this conversation. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Anytime.
So we both agree that being likable is important and it actually helps produce better outcomes.
Yeah.
You know, in meeting your whatever your quotas are or your business brand outcomes are, but just on a personal level and being a decent human being that people can work with.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
No, I said exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So obviously the strategies that we talked about are things that have worked for us, and it might be different from you. Ultimately, it really depends on the uniqueness of each individual in your team.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why it's really important to get to know each person because it's not one fits all. Thank you so much, Bolanle.
I enjoyed this.
An interesting conversation. So guys, being like important, but there's a difference between that and being a people pleaser. So, catch yourself in knowing when you're trying to over please people just because you want them to buy into you as their leader and respect you. So if you have any questions, if you feel like this is something that you're currently struggling with, feel free to comment down below and let us know. If you really like this video, give it a like. And most importantly, subscribe. Let us know that you really like the content here, and so every time I post a video, you get a ding, and which is every Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much, Bolanle. I really appreciate
no problem. Anytime.
Conversation. See you in the next episode.
All right. Bye.